Taruka, I think anyone from Open University? Can we start or we have to wait some more?
Yes, sir. Now start.
How many students I think we have? Yeah, I think we'll start. We have how many? One, two, three, four students, right? I heard altogether about 20, but four are here. So I think with the interest of the time that we'll actually I will start the session. Right. Okay. Let me share my screen quickly. Right. Can you see my screen? Yep. So let me quickly introduce myself to the group. I'm Susitha. Currently pursuing my doctorate of business administration in University of California. As you all know that uh, like any other government organization, I've been submitted my final defense for almost 6 months now. I'm waiting for my defense. So hopefully before we finish these classes, I hope that I will be able to complete this. And little bit about mainly my main area is actually supply chain, and also focusing specifically on the digitalization of the supply chain. And when it comes to my little bit of academic experience, I'm actually lecturing, as you know, that in Open University as well as few other places in Sri Lanka. I'm doing lectures on that. Give a little brief on my background. If you look at some of my publications already, 8 publications. One is on our way. So if you look at all my publication, that is mainly focusing on the supply chain, and specifically in the domain of apparel and textile manufacturing, right? And it's predominantly I'm more interested, and in my research mainly I'm focusing on the areas of how we try to bring technology into supply chain. So that's my area. So you can read my articles if you want. You can reach out in the Google Scholar, etc. So that's a little bit about myself. Uh, so why don't we now we have, I think we have only 4. I would say I'm not going to call you students because you are matured and very uh, skillful people. So I think I'm going to learn from you, and you are going to learn from me something. So that's why I wanted to call you learning partners. So we are partners. We are learning. We are sharing our knowledge each another. So why don't we actually start introducing each and everyone in this?
May I start, sir?
Yeah.
I'm Ravi Priya, and currently I'm serving as the Chief Executive Officer of Chartered Institute of Taxation, a kind of a semi-governmental institute. But when it comes to governing body, the governing is being done by a council. However, it functions under the influence, under the purview of Ministry of Finance.
All right. Okay. Thank you. Great. The other one.
Hi, sir. This is Muhammad Zubani.
Yeah.
Basically, I am an electronic engineer. I'm working in Dubai Cable Company. It's a manufacturing company as a order processing specialist. So almost I'm working here 6 years. So I think this course will be much beneficial for me in the future.
Excellent. Excellent. Thanks, Subai. The other one, Susima. Susima, are you there? Seems okay.
Can
The
you
other
hear
one,
me?
yeah, I can hear you.
This is Prosima. So
Yeah.
I'm just, going home. That been after work.
That's fine.
So yeah, just a minute. I'll park my car. Yeah, I'm Susima, working for Poakarama Group of Companies, and I completed 25 years for last September. Yeah, I'm
that's fine.
working as a import manager, and I'm one of the directors of Poakarama Group
Good.
for Pilque Cargo, and that's all, sir.
Yeah, that's fine.
Thank you.
The other ones, Lokanathan.
Good afternoon. I am Loganathan, Chief Accountant from Health Department, Northern Province. Now I am traveling back to Vietnam, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Then Ajanthan.
Hello, hi, sir. This is Ajanthan. I'm from Sri Lanka, but currently have been working in Oman in an integrated facility management project.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Then Kumari.
Yes, sir. I am Ganga Kumari. I work to Petroleum Corporation as a civil engineer.
Right. Okay. I think that's all that we have so far. If anybody, I think university told me that we have about 20 people, 20 learning partners, but I think we have only about 5. Doesn't matter. First of all, I just quickly share some of the ground rules, so that I think it's easy for us to spend these few weeks together. As I said, that you all are a very matured group. You all are not like school students or university students. So I'm going to give my respect to you all, considering that you all are very matured and in different very senior positions in these different organizations. So it's going to be like kind of discussion, and I would like to engage more and start discussing things so we all can learn, right? So that's my style. I prefer that the cameras being on, because being 2 o'clock in the afternoon on Saturday, I know most of the students sometimes they must be logging in and sleeping. Doesn't matter, but I think it's easier for us to engage, because otherwise I feel like it's very difficult for me to talk to a screen for 2 hours. So that's the whole request. And when it comes to delivering, I will take you through some of this stuff, but it's all about discussion and try to understand and share knowledge. Not only myself, my job is to just provoke thoughts, right? Just give certain ideas, certain points, but it's us all together. We learn together, right? So I will also learn, you will also learn. That's how it works. So when it comes to assessments, don't worry. Nobody will fail. This is in record. In fact, so all will pass the subject. That's for sure. Last time I think we had about 7 or 8 learning partners for change management subject. All passed. but I gave one student only that I gave actually less than just a pass mark, just to make sure that he's got through his course. But all the others actually got 60-70%. So saying that, what I want to do is like, I want to know, tell you is like, I know that most of y'all are doing this to add some more qualification into your profile. That's fine. That is perfectly fine. But I think it's important, since that you are spending money and time for this course, at least learn something on that. So I think learn something about this particular one. So that is my intention. That is what I'm expecting from you. So don't worry about exams and assignments and all that stuff, but try to learn something for your life, and also for your careers, your organizations. If you can take out from this course, always do that. So that's my ask. Let me share quickly your course structure. I think it's very important for you all to understand uh, your course structure, this particular subject. It is obviously it's globalization and change management, right? So according to the university, the theory part, that is like sessions, you will have 13 2-hour sessions, which are in a lecture form, right? That's what we are. This is the first one that we are actually doing, right? And then the university expects you to study 13 times, like 3 hours into 13. That is for each lecture what we deliver. You are supposed to put in 3 hours for each lecture and to find out more. I think I don't have to tell, because you are mature enough to understand the things that we can give you within 2 hours lecture is very minimal, right? So it's you have to search, you have to read a lot, and you have to find out, you have to explore on the topics, on the themes that we discuss, etc., and all that, right? So I'm not going to talk about all the course aims and all that. So there are several learning outcomes that the university wants you to demonstrate out of this particular subject. So one is actually your intellectual skills. Obviously, how do you demonstrate that? And creative critical thinking. How do you put your the learnings into actual critical analysis, critical understanding? And then obviously your managerial skills and ethical attitudes, right? And then professionalism and vision, that is what they are actually looking at. There are many learning outcomes. I'm not going to talk about that. So your assessment for this particular subject is going to be, there will be an assignment in mid-course, right? So in that assignment, we will take 40% of that marks to assess you. And also you'll be having final assessment, and we'll take that as a written exam. So we'll take 60% out of that written exam in order for us to calculate the final mark for this particular subject. Now, saying that, don't worry, right? I'm telling you again and again, don't worry, you will all pass. As long as that you follow what I'm actually guiding you through. I will give you certain exercises. If you adhere to those exercises, if you really put in some thought and hard work on those exercises, I don't think the assignment and the final assessment is going to be that difficult for you, right? So that's why I say don't worry about that, right? And some of the recommended readings they have mentioned. So there are recommended readings. I think have they shared these readings with you, university? Have they shared this list of recommended readings? If not, I'll probably share it with you separately.
No, the few minutes ago, like, I mean, it was in the WhatsApp.
All right.
But we would have got it little early.
Right, sure. So I will share these, what are the recommended readings, right? So you can, if you can find out, read. And on top of that, actually, I have actually shared, what I will do is in all my lectures, I will actually share some of the additional readings from different journal articles and etc., where you can get more knowledge on what you learn during the lecture, right? So I think I have this time I have shared about 4 or 5 journal articles and few other articles. Read it after the lecture. You read and then and get some idea of extra idea. That's what we expect. So this course has been broken into, as you can see, 10 lectures, right, across every week, 2-hour lectures. It's actually not 10 lectures. Actually, we have broken it into 10 parts, I would say. So one is actually, the first one is actually changing organization, our complex world. That's what we are going to discuss today. And change frameworks for organizational diagnosis is how to do change. One of my colleagues will take up that with you all separately in a different lecture. And change frameworks for organizational diagnosis, right? How we must learn how we must diagnose different organizations and different tactics, models, frameworks when it comes to change. And then the building, energizing the need for change, navigating the change through informal structures. That means how are we going to structure our organizations in that. Then managing recipients for change, influence, stakeholder management, right? And becoming a master of agent, action planning, etc., all that, right? And then final one is final one, we will review all that. So these lectures will be delivered by 2 individuals. One is myself. So I'll be delivering certain subjects, and then my colleague will deliver the other subjects. So I hope that it'll be we will try to keep it as interactive and informative as possible, so that this is about the whole structure of your program. I thought why I'm sharing this with you is I think it's very important for you to understand what exactly that we are going to cover. What is exactly what university is expecting from you from this. Any questions up to this?
No, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Right. Let me share the slide deck, which I have actually already shared it with you. I hope that university, oh, this is not the right one, sorry. Which university has already, I hope that university has already shared it with you. Yes. This is not the one. This is the one. Right. Let me go back. Right. So we are trying to understand, we are trying to explore the globalization and change management, right? So when it comes to globalization and change management, first of all, that we need to understand, now we are talking about change, right? So we need to understand what is change, right? So I would like to open up to share some thoughts with you all, right? What do you think as change? Don't look at my presentation, just as per your perception, what is change?
Changes everything has a nature, and the shifting from one mode to another mode is a change.
Right, good. Anything else? Somebody? Anybody else?
It's a kind of transformation.
Kind of transformation, yes.
I also can add over a period of time.
Exactly. Beautiful. So I'm not a guy who's giving I don't like definitions, because definitions are like kind of like it is like it's not good. I mean, I don't give definitions, but the thing is that we wanted to have a little bit of an understanding of what it is. But so I thought that I took this particular definition from Cotter. I think you may have heard Cotter is one of the greatest scholars when it comes to management studies, especially on this change studies. So I thought I actually took a definition from that. So it says that change refers to a process, right? Becoming a different, right? In some particular way over time. Exactly what you just said, right? So it's a process. It's not a destination, right? So you cannot say, okay, that I just reached there, but it's kind of a process, continuous process, right? To becoming different in some particular way over a time or a period of time. It's exactly as you said, right? And it compasses shifts in behavior, processes, structures, or perspectives within a system environment, right? System or an environment. So I think this why I selected this particular definition is actually it covers the entire scope of what is a change, right? So as you rightly said, it's a process of becoming different in some particular way over a time, right? So that change, that process, that the differentiation happen not only in what we do. Now, most of the people that we think that we are talking about only the process point of view. It's not the case, right? It's not the process point of view, right? But it differs from many other perspectives as well. It could be behavioral shifts, right? As you rightly know, right? And it could be structures, like organization structures, the way that we structured the organization, right? And also the perspectives that we within a system or an environment, right? On a change. So I don't want you to by heartly remember this definition, because I want you all to come up with your own definition when it comes, if somebody asks what is change, right? But give these perspectives to it. As you rightly said, it's becoming different from one thing to another, right? Over a period of time, right? And it includes behavior, process, structures, systems, and environment, right? So as long as you cover that part, that is what we are talking about, a change, right? So now if I ask you, okay, if I look at what is organizational change, then what is organizational change, right? So the organizational change refers to any modification, right, or transformation within the way that organization operates. Again, the same thing, the previous definition. We are taking that definition that operates the structures, cultures, business processes, and we are saying the way change refers to any modification or transformation or complete transformation in the way an organization operates, right? In these aspects, right? And it can be triggered by internal forces and external forces. We will read that. We will go through that in detail a little bit. So this is what we call when it comes to an organizational change. Now, when it comes to organizations, now you are participating for a procurement in uh, public procurement within that supply chain domain, entire supply chain domain, right? But so which means that this organization can be a public, which is government owned, right? Or it can be a private, right? Kind of our business scenarios, right? Or any kind of a business scenario. Or even it can be a kind of a non-profit organization, any organization, right? In any organization, any environment, if you want to apply, that's what we call the organizational change, right? Now, when it comes to organizational change, now, why do we need to change? It's the golden question. Why are we talking about this change? Why are we talking a change in an organization? Why is that? Especially when it comes to the subject matter, the subject domain that we are talking about, the supply chain management. Why do we need change?
Well, in competitive environment, you may have to face some challenges such as disasters, maybe natural disasters, maybe artificial disasters, and man-made disasters. Like COVID is one of the example, during which you may have to face some complex situations,
Yeah,
critical situations where you have to change yourself and you may have to change your organization. You may have to think about adding something, some other modification to the organization to suit to face the challenge.
excellent. So now we are in the subject domain of supply chain. I think you may have gone through what is a supply chain and all that. Have you gone through what is a supply chain, etc.? I think Professor Renuka might have taken you through, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Professor Renuka is actually my second supervisor. So let's look at a supply chain for an example, right? So I have my suppliers, right? Then I have my transportation providers, and then I have my, say, distribution centers. We'll call it like that. I will just draw a small supply chain, suppliers, right? And then from there, I have my services. Again, I may have some DCs, or I may have some transportation providers, and then I may have my customers, right? We'll put it like that. Now, this is me, my organization. Right? So for this, we call a name. Can you remember that when it comes to supply chain management? Have you learned something called OEM, original equipment manufacturer? Have you heard that? Manufacturer. So we call me in my organization as OEM, or we can say original service provider, right? Service. It can be a product or a service, right? Now, this is the supply chain context that we are talking about. So when it comes to when we are talking about a supply chain, we always talk keeping myself, my organization in perspective, and I look upstream and downstream of my supply chain, right? That's how we work now, upstream and downstream, right? That is how we work, right? So I always look at my own thing, right? But now all these nodes of the supply chain, each and every node of the supply chain can operate as an OEM, correct? It can operate as an OEM, right? Now, if you look at one of my suppliers, if I take one of my suppliers as perspective, my supplier also have the same network, right? My supplier also have the same network. My customer also will have the same network, right? My transport provider will also have the same kind of a network in their perspectives, right? So when it comes to the supply chain management domain, now the new trend is that we don't call it as a supply chain. We call it actually a supply network, right? Supply network, right? So it has become so complex, right? The supply network has become so complex, and it has gone beyond the borders, and it has brought in different perspectives and all that. So it is inevitable that we'll have to work across this particular supply chain in order for us to deliver either a product or a service, right? It could be a product or it could be a service, right? So in this perspective, one of the biggest challenges that we have is now see, let me go back to the presentation, right? So the organization must change because the increasing global complexity, when it comes to this particular subject, we are talking about the supply chain complexity, right? It's so complex. Right? It is so complex. It goes beyond borders, right? If you really look at the industry which I'm working on, right, parallel industry, our supply chains are very diverse, right? So the procuring things have become very difficult. It's so complex. It is the same when it comes to public organizations as well. I think most of you all who works in the public organizations, you'll understand, right? And the second thing is that because of this supply chain is so complex, right? The transparency, right, and keeping the accountability has becoming a challenge, right? The demand for the transparency and the demand for the accountability is increasing, right? That is obvious, right? You know that as a senior members of different organizations, you know that is the case, right? So you cannot now, even if you take a public supply chain, any public organization, government organization, now you can see the demand of the customer or the public is it's never the before. Like, I mean, if you're talking about 10-15 years ago, right? They are so much challenging. They require transparency, right? They want the people to take the accountability and the responsibility, right? So that's one angle, right? And then the one of the biggest boom is because of the technological change, right? Now the technology is evolving at a speed which we cannot even imagine, right? And unfortunately or fortunately, I don't know, we can argue and we can debate separately, right? The generation that currently the Gen Zs and then all those generations, they are more technology savvy. So that's why they are even pushing the public sector to move into these different technological landscape, because they are not satisfied with the services that they are getting, like kind of manual services and all that, right? So technology plays a great influencer for this particular change, right? And obviously, sustainability is one of the key topics that we discuss everywhere. I'm not knowledgeable enough to comment on that when it comes to public sector, but when it comes to a private sector, now if you are not working towards the sustainability, right? If you are not bringing in those concepts, and if you are not adhering to those sustainability concepts, right? You will not have a customer, basically, right? We will not have a customer. Now, those days we didn't have that kind of pressure. I mean, we'll take example as an apparel industry, which I'm working on, right? We didn't have orders. But now, if your product is not sustainable, if you are not talking about that, if you don't produce, if you don't show certain facts about sustainability, that you are a sustainable organization, the doors of your customers are closed for you. You cannot move. You cannot walk in like that, right? So these are, I mean, these are not the only challenges, but these are some of the key pressures that we get as private organizations as well as government organizations, which the organizations are looking for changes, right? We are looking for changes, right? Anything to add for this? Any thoughts? Anything to add? Or any experience that you have, especially on in terms of public organizations, that some of the or these pressures or any other pressures that you have, which they push for you to change?
In different regimes, because when it comes to public sector, of course, the governing body is focusing on introducing various changes due to the pressure that they get.
Yeah.
So then the pressure, of course, automatically vested upon the head of the department.
Yeah.
And with a lot of resistance, I should say, because the people who work in the public sector are not yet geared to face the change and embrace the changes. So therefore, the department head himself, perhaps due to the pressure vested upon from high level, will have to drive them, which is very difficult. And that's what exactly has happened to our country today. So it's very difficult, although people say that we need change and we have to introduce change, etc. The person who is in the field, who is trying to implement, has to face a lot of resistance.
Absolutely, absolutely. Any other thoughts? Anybody else? I see Ravi Pri only talking all the time. I want you all of us just to engage, because this discussion, we all need to learn. Anything else in your organization which drives this? Why do we need change? Why do we change?
One thing also I can add, now people talk about the corruptions today, and to get rid of corruptions is one way that, like, if you can introduce technology, that's a change. Automate all the systems that are there, and instead of maintaining your manual system, introduce automated systems. By doing that, you can not, I don't say that 100% you can get rid of corruptions and then increase efficiency, but up to a certain extent, you'll be able to achieve it.
True. So I mean, again, when it comes to corruption and all that, it's mainly that's what I think the people are looking for: transparency and accountability, right? So that's what most of the people now expect, especially the young generation, right? They are very much into this transparency, what is exactly happening kind of scenario. So anyway, so now this is theory, okay? This is theory. Now, the scholars segregate the change drivers into two, right? One is external factors and the other one is internal factors, right? Now, this is theory, okay? This is nothing to do with practicality, and this is theory, right? Now, obviously, let's focus on the internal factors, right? Now, there are certain internal factors. Obviously, some of I have just given here a few examples. Any leadership change? Yes, right? That's exactly what is happening to our public sector, right? Whenever the leaders change, it has an external drive to change what we are currently doing right now without having fixed policies, right? So it's an obvious thing, internal fact, right? And obviously the employees' expectations, right? Employees' expectations, the expectations grow. They want to do different things. They want to earn more. They want more freedom. They want more, like, you name it, right? So their expectations are changing, especially with this young generation, right? So we cannot work the way that we existed in current organizational landscape, right? And then obviously the growth. I mean, I know that certain government organizations also, they are looking at growth, but especially when it comes to private sector, obviously growth is one of the key drivers for change, right? One of the key drivers for change. Now the organization which I am working for is like a slogan is change is courage, right? Change is courage, right? So that means the thing that they are trying to drive is that change is constant, right? So you cannot have, you have to change. That's constant. Keep on changing, because if we don't do that, we won't grow, right? So I can see most of these aspects, especially when it comes to organizational growth, especially private sector has a big drive, especially because of the organizational growth, right? Rather than the other aspects like leadership change or employee expectations. But when it comes to public sector, I think the leadership change and the employee expectations drive a huge drive towards change when these factors changes, right? And also your organizational SWOT, right? Your organizational strengths, weaknesses, and opportunities, threats. So these factors also actually drives you to change, right? So these are some of the internal factors that we talk about, right? And then some of the external factors, like obviously, I think you may know, I mean, in your basic degrees and all the other marketing, if you are especially connected to marketing, I mean, you know that there are certain external factors which we call Pestel and Porter's 5 forces, right? drives a huge influence, right? The organizations to change, right? Those are external factors, right? So we are going to look at a little bit of detail when it comes to the external factors, because that the others are very straightforward. Leadership change, employee reactions, and organizational growth is very straightforward. So we will double click on a little bit of these external factors. What are the external factors that actually drive this change, right? So what are those external? Just forget about pestle and forget about five forces. That like I would like to understand. I would like to open up the forum to understand, as you see, what are the external factors which drives your organizations for change.
Yeah. Now, there can be resistance from the social side, and there can be various directions from the political side when it comes to a public sector institute. I'm referring to mainly,
Yeah.
and at the same time, so, which will lead to, of course, economical and environmental issues too.
Yeah.
Usually, when you look at an organization that has externally, that is exposed to external influences, so
Yeah.
external influences could come from, what you're writing here, environment, economical, political, and social, and even legal.
Yeah. Right.
For my
Anybody, anything else? Anybody?
organization, it's technological changes and technological trends.
Yeah. Yeah. Anything else? Now, all what you talked about is actually the pestle factors, right? All are pestle. You talked about political, right? And you talked about economical factors, right? And then you talked about social factors, right? And then we have technological factors, right? Then we have environmental, and then legal, right? Now, these ones we call pestle factors, right? Now, as you rightly said, all these factors actually have a huge influence, right? These external forces have a huge influence on the change in any organization. Now, for example, if you look at just see now what happened when Trump woke up one day in the morning and he said he want to impose tariff of 48% in exports, right? What happened? Suddenly, the entire country shook. Not only one particular sector, the entire many sectors shook, right? So even now the pressure is still there, right? Now we didn't the tariffs that we had and the tariffs that currently we have is very high still. So unless that we change, we won't be able to in the game. We won't be able to compete with the other parties, right? In the industry, right? So it's very critical. Political factors have become like now those days actually I would say maybe if I'm wrong, correct me if I'm wrong. What I saw was like the political factors influence mostly in the third world countries. In our countries up because suddenly they change, suddenly the government topples and etc. But now it has become more global, right? Political factors have become more global, right? Now you can see the things that is happening in everywhere, right? And also economical factors, obviously, that is given, that we knew that how it works. Social factors again become heavy, right? The challenges, the needs of the people, the expectations of people, and everything is very high, right? Technology, one of the key, right? As I said earlier, one of the key factors which actually drives and influence the organizations to change, right? Then obviously the environmental, very high, the factors that we are talking about, and also legal, right? So these factors are actually what we call the pestle factors. I think most of you all may know already, but those who, yeah.
So now in addition, now we are in a region, our country is located in a region, South Asia. If the regional stability is affected, I feel as a country, the entire country, and then internal organs such as various departments and institutes are also likely to get affected. So, and then the global complex situations globally, like even if, I mean, take like Ukraine war, and then recently two bombs, suicide bombs exploded in Pakistan and India. And now the regional stability is affected. And then that will have an impact, that will have an influence on organizations.
Absolutely. Now, if you look at most of the what you have just discussed, actually we can categorize into political and social aspects. No, bombing and all that, like, okay, maybe it's purely for social, right? Social, really, those kind of activities, right? And then the Ukraine war and all that is actually coming because of the political factors, right? So political, and it could be economical as well. But so in general, in academically, that they have broken these factors, that, I mean, whenever that we talk about something, that actually it fits to this framework, right? I think earlier we talked about only pest factors, right? We talked about only PE, political, economical, social, and technological factors. But now the recent only that it actually added environmental factors and also legal factors, because we are talking about our supply chains are more diverse, and it's more global, offshore. There are a lot of legal factors come into play when it comes to driving and influencing the organizations to change, right? So so thank you for all that input. Now that is that we call the pestle factors. That is one of the factors that we talked about, external. And then I think most of y'all who are more connected or closer to marketing, right? These factors also can be influenced. We call these Potter's five forces, right? Now, I personally believe, maybe we can challenge, you can challenge, and you can start explaining. I personally believe these factors are more influenced on the private sector, but I'm not saying 100%. I'm not saying for public sector is zero. This is my perception, okay? So we can discuss and argue, and we can share our knowledge, right? More towards the private sector than the public sector, but there are certain elements that public sector also is influenced by these kind of factors. Now, Porter talk about 5 factors. Now, these are the 5 factors. One is the threat of new entrants, right? Threat of new entrants. That means, like, if you are doing one particular business, in one particular industry, right? If there are more people getting into that particular product, providing that product or service, right? There's a threat, right? They said there's a threat, right? So so it talks about the barriers to entry and economies of scale, right? And then the brand loyalty, these kind of stuff they're talking about, and the government. So the threat of new entrants, right? So how easy, what they're talking about is that how easy or difficult for a new entrant, a new person to start providing that particular kind of product or a service, right? How difficult that is, right? That's what. And then they call it like the bargaining power of the buyers, the customers, right? The bargaining power of the customers. So how many customers that you have, and whether the customers are the price sensitive, etc., all that, right? How easily that they can give up my brand and move into a different brand. So that the bargaining power of the customer, right? How much that the customer has the power to bargain the quality and the price of the product. is they call it the second threat, the second force, right? Then we talk about threat of substitute products. Okay, for this particular product, how quickly that another product can be substituted, right? How soon that it can come, what is the switching cost, etc., etc., right? That also the third force, right? And then the bargaining power of the supply, right? How is your supplier positioned to bargain for you, to give you difficulty in order to make your product or service competitive, right? And rivalry among existing competitors. That existing competitors, what is the rivalry? How much competition that you're thinking about with your existing competitors? Now, these are what the aspect that we talk about when we talk about the five forces, which actually influence the organizations to change. Another aspect of it. So why I said that these are, I'll tell you the rationale that why I said that these are more towards the private sector than the public sector, because it talks about pricing, it talks about substituting, it talks about producing a service or a good, that kind of an angle. So I was thinking when I was preparing for this lecture, where can I apply for this kind of thing for the public sector? The only thing that it came out to my mind is probably the Sri Lankan Airlines. A kind of it's not just a non-profit organization. It's a proper organization which drives for profitability, right? So they actually have these threats, right? The forces, they have these forces for them to change. Any thoughts or any other examples on this public sector perspective, so I also can learn? Anybody? You don't agree or disagree?
No, I think you have already, I mean, in this slide, I mean, those factors have already covered the areas that could influence the private sector, like threat of new entrants. Of course, that's going to be a very big threat
Yeah.
to any private organization, because they'll have to have a competition and they'll have to find ways and means to stay in the businesses. And the bargaining power, buyers, of course, due to crisis situations, economic crisis, etc., this has become very, very rampant, and always they try to buy it at a lower rate. Substitute products like IPR has come to, I mean, our country, I think, has, they're lacking of looking into this IPR, intellectual property protection. So that is also a big threat. Substitute products are enough. And substitute products, of course, they cross the border without any problem, and that has become a serious issue.
Yeah.
And as a result of which, the people who follow the proper procedures will not be able to sell their products. I think
Is there any example that you can think of that these can be these are some of the forces that drive changes in public sector in other than the Sri Lankan Airlines example that I have given? Any other areas in the public sector that you think that these forces are actually influencing?
Yes, yes. Now, take Sri Lanka Customs. I mean, their main duty is to collect taxes from the commodities and services that crosses the border. So now, I think you all may be well aware, when it comes to apparel industry, the importers are importing apparels from country, paying taxes to make the revenue healthier. And whereas there are apparels coming through various other means, through air and through unaccompanied baggages, those come into our country without paying the same taxes. And as a result of which, there is a huge threat to the market. So as a department, the custom has to face this problem. So this is one of the areas I see.
Areas, yeah. So I mean, anyway, it's good discussion. Like any other thoughts? Anybody else? I think you all are very senior positions. You must be having good examples.
Can Milko also can be examples, because
Yep.
there are new entrants. They are being prone to new entrants and fluctuations in the demand also that they can't handle. They have brand loyalty, but then again, because of they are not prepared to cater the growing demand, I think.
That's
because of the forecasting issues and other things.
Yeah, so it's good. So you can actually think of a different perspective now. Now one area is that I'm just preparing for your final assessment. Okay. Now it can be there could be scenario that question that it will ask, like, take an organization or public or private organization and try to analyze what are the forces, what are the external and internal forces that actually influence them towards change, right? So you should be able to analyze very easily. I mean, I have given certain points. So don't stick to what I'm given you on the slides, okay? There could be many other things. These are right? There are many other reasons as well. There could be many things. That's why I want you to come up with your own thing, own thinking, critical thinking, right? Your own experiences, on your organizations, right? It's very, very important, right? Now, these are some of the guidelines that I'm giving. So now, because why I'm giving these are some of the academic stuff, right? So Porter's 5 forces. When we say Porter's 5 forces, it's pure academic, right? When we say Pestel, it's pure academic, right? So since that you are doing an academic course, right, degree, it's important for us to put these terminology as well. That's why I'm teaching you this. Other than that, you can put whatever that you want, but try to use these academic words when it comes to write your assignments or answers, right? So then we know that you are a scholar. Right. Now, when it comes to change, the scholars actually teaches us that there are different types of changes, right? Different types of changes. So we will quickly go through without much detail. We'll quickly go through. Now, one type is actually incremental versus transformational change, right? Incremental versus transformational change. What is incremental change means? Means that if you are bringing up some sort of a change for a particular process, for a particular behavior, right? Or for a particular structure of an organization, right? So that is what we call an incremental, a small change that we take as a step, right? One at a time, right? So that is what we call the incremental change. So we have, when it comes to changes, we can categorize based on that, incremental or transformational. Now, what is transformational is like you completely disrupt the way that you work currently, right? It could be due to any of the factors that we talked about. It could be due to any of the factors that you talked about, and you completely disrupt the way that you operate, right? It is not only the processes, it's the entire organizational model that it changes. Now, for example, I'm talking about, let's talk about a person who's actually carrying out a small boutique, a pettikade at a roadside, right? So he has a model of operating, right? He has a model of operating. He has a model of costing. He has a model of purchasing things, right? He has his own business model. He has a model, right? But if he tries to move from that small boutique or pettikade into a different place, right, and trying to operate into a different class, different category of customers, right, then you are talking about complete disruption. You're completely changing things, right? So if the entire organization, the way that you currently work, right, is changing, that is what we call the transformational change, right? I will talk you through an example. I'll talk you through an example, but just keep in mind, now this is one type of change. One is incremental and the other one is a transformational change, right? Then we can categorize change as planned and emergent, right? Obvious, no? I mean, I don't have to explain this to you, right? Plan means that if you decide, okay, I want to change this, obviously it's a plan change, right? It's a plan change. And emerging means that because of certain factors that without knowing, without planning, that no, there's no other way that we are, unless that we change, we cannot operate, right? That's an emerging change, right? Now, for example, if you look at, I don't know how much that is happening, especially on the public sector, but if I talk about private sector, most of the private sectors, now we are talking about work from home, right? We are promoting work from home, right? We are talking and we are encouraging people to work from home due to various factors, right? But that is after COVID, right? But before COVID, thinking about work from home is like kind of a crazy thing, right? They may ask you to go to a Angod hospital, right? If you're thinking about working from home, but didn't the technology existed that time? It was existed, right? All the teams were there, the Skype was there, and many other communication tools were there. The tools were there, but we didn't have that concept of working from home, right? But what happened after COVID, right? COVID pushes us to work from home, right? There's no other way. It's emergent. So it came. There's no other way. You cannot move. You work from home, right? You use these technologies. You work from home, right? Now it has becoming a trend in many of the private organizations to save cost, to keep the attrition right, to keep people happy, to work-life balance, etc., etc. That is now it's we are talking a lot about working from home. So now that is an emergent, right? Due to various other factors, it emerged, right? Not planned, but we didn't plan for that, right? So these are another type of two types of changes, right? Then there could be other changes like structural, technological, and cultural, right? Structural, obviously, there are there could be reasons that we may have to change our structures, the organization that we work, right? And then obviously the technology, because of the technological changes, we may we may have different type of changes. Obviously, the cultural change, one of the key factors, because now I think the perception of the people, the requirements of the people, the way that they think is changing. So I think now more than anything, obviously the technology is still the first, but cultural is also having a huge impact. We organizations, we actually change. So these are some of the change types that in the books that we learned, right? But there could be many other change steps we can categorize into sub categories as well. Hari, any questions? No. Right. The question, golden question is this: are we ready to change? Are we ready to change? What do you think as a country?
I think personally, most of the people do not like, although they criticize, they say and they propose, they themselves do not want to change.
Any others? Any other thoughts?
Yes, I also don't think as a nation we are ready to change.
Maybe, sir. They're in the habit of spending time in the way that they spend time, so they don't want to change that. I mean, that would have made a lot of facilitation for them. So they don't want to shift from that to another where they are going to lose that. So that may be the reason. But of course, with a lot of difficulties, perhaps people will have to change and they will embrace it.
Yep. Now I just gave this as a question. 1 second, I just drink some water. I just took it as a question. This is a beautiful a question, research question. If you all are willing to do some research on, even for your final project, one of the good areas that you can touch on, right? Are we ready to change as a country? Are we ready to change as a public sector, or even in different particular sector? Something for you to think. So I'm just provoking your thoughts, and I'm just giving you certain ideas even for your final research, right? So something that you can think of. I mean, there's no right or wrong answer. I mean, we don't know. There's no proof, right? There are a lot of literature, there are a lot of research is going on, but different perspectives. So it's something that you also can research and contribute to the knowledge, right? So something that you can think of. But is this the fact is, change is inevitable, right? There's no escape of a change, right? Now the only thing that we know is, at least in private organizations, this is the I mean, like, kind of a slogan that we say is like, change is constant. Change is the only constant, right? There's no way, there's no other way, right? So whether we like it or not, whether we ready or not, I don't know, as a country or as a nation, how we take it up. But again, what I have to say is, like, change is just a constant. I mean, there's no other way, right? So change has to be happening. Now I will
Sir,
talk you through. Yeah, go ahead.
excuse me, sir. So I would like to add something because during the import restrictions, we are a country, we are a company who imported more than 430 containers per month, right? So during the import restrictions, actually most of 90% of our imports cancelled, that been stopped, right? Then, so because adhere to the government restrictions, we moved to manufacturing, right? But that change helped us a lot. Now we import more than, actually out of 50%, yeah, imported items. Now we turned those importations to manufacturing. So now actually we are benefited from those changes.
Are you
So
benefited from
private sector is, that willingly, as you told, willingly or unwillingly, we have to adhere to the change.
Correct. Good. Now, these are some of the business cases specifically on the private sector, right? And these are some of the cases that you can see that mainly on business studies. Academically, we use and a lot of literature and the videos are available regarding these case studies, right? These are very prominent studies, case studies, where the companies, big brands, lost, right, due to that they don't want to change, right? They don't believe in change, and these are the companies that they actually busted, right? Now, if you look at a Blockbuster, right, those days, that's a lucrative and it's a, I would say, a fountain of money, right? The movies, Blockbuster, right? But they miserably failed, right? Who attacked? What was the competition that they had? Their biggest competition, that they initially their biggest competition was Netflix, right? So they are the one, they actually, now if I tell you a little bit of long story short about Netflix. Now let Netflix, the original operating model, the business model, was actually renting DVDs, right? Because these Blockbuster, these companies actually they produce these DVDs and they started selling, right? And so there were two things. One is actually the cost is very high. Second one is actually the availability, right? Approachability. Now it was actually centered more into metropolis in US, and then other areas in the US, they didn't have the access to those movies and all that because they are more remote. So what Netflix did was, Netflix actually, initial business model was Netflix actually started a company where they rent DVDs. So their model was like somebody can actually order online, they can order, I want to watch these 3 movies. What they do is they take those 3 DVDs and mail it through the postal service, and then to remote areas, and they watch and they return it back, and then that's the model. I think we also had the same model, no, when at least when I'm small, we had, right? We kept the identity card, and we took video cassettes and all that we had, right? Even now there are certain places, I don't know whether now it's there. So that is actually the business model, was actually the business model of Netflix, right? Now what happened now at that time, when they start, the technology, specifically when it comes to the speeds of the internet, were very slow, right? Very slow, right? And the technological infrastructure was not set up, and the technology has been not evolved to have deliver streaming, right? But in a shorter period of time, that barrier got broken, right? So the infrastructure was set up, and then the technology has emerged, and then the speeds of the internet and the cost of the internet data and everything has went in the right side. What Netflix did was Netflix leveraged that technological advancements, right? And they started giving, now instead of renting the video, they started giving the streaming service where you can watch movies online, right? And after that only, I mean, like all the other competitors like Amazon, Apple and all that, they also started. But Netflix, they did it. So see, this is exactly what I'm talking about, a transformational change. That means the way that I operate, the way that I think, the way that I structured, the way that my entire supply chain has been structured, I'm changing that into a complete different business operating model, right? With the technological influence, right? So that's what I said. I'll give you an example. So Netflix is an example of a transformational change, right? It transformed the entire business model to a different one. And then what happened? I mean, like then blockbusters, there were no more. They went out, right? Same thing happened to Kodak. Kodak, uh, same thing. They didn't invest on digital. They didn't believe in digital, and then they vanished, right? Nokia, same thing. When it comes to, I mean, if the times that I can remember, the initial times that we wanted to use a phone, it's always Nokia. It's not Apple or Samsung, right? Because that was the only market player. Vanished, right? Because they didn't want to evolve into different technologies and get into the smartphone thing. Same thing, BlackBerry. You have a Netflix a movie regarding BlackBerry, how BlackBerry bankrupted. It's a beautiful movie. Watch that if you want, right? If you can, right? So these are some of the examples which actually we talked mainly on in the academia, and also especially on the business studies, the business social studies, where the businesses have been bankrupted because they don't want to change, right? They didn't want to adapt the change, right? So that is why we said, I mentioned change is inevitable, change is constant. If you don't change, you will not be existed. The time will tell the time, right? Your business time, right? I honestly, sorry, I don't have any examples of government or public sector that I can give, but these are some of the private sector examples. But I think you get the idea. You get what I'm trying to say. Yeah. Any comments? Any questions? Yeah. Okay. Now. Now, since that we are talking about change management, especially on the academic arena, so it's important for us to understand certain theories about change management, how we analyze and how we try to explain change management, the tools, theories, right? So whenever that it will be helpful for you, whenever that you articulate when in your assignments or in your if you are writing into exam, or even your practical life when you apply certain changes, right? So these are certain theories and the models, the frameworks, which you need to keep in mind. You don't have to study, and you don't have to keep, I mean, like community teacher gave note එක වගේ ඒවා we don't want that, but at least you must understand, you explore this in detail and try to understand. Now, one of the prominent theories when it comes to change management, I would say one of the fundamental rooted theories in change management is we call Levin's change management theory, iceberg theory, right? Levin's iceberg theory. Now, he explains the entire change process, right, in this iceberg theory, right? If you want to change something, right? If you want to change something, Levin says this is the way that you must execute that. This is the model, right? Iceberg. So he takes iceberg as an example, right? So he says, now an organization is like an iceberg. So it is fixed. Now there's a way that it operates, there's a way that there are certain processes, structures, behavior, culture, etc., etc. It is there, right? So it's kind of an iceberg. So if you want to change, right, you cannot do that change. So the first phase that Levin proposes is that first of all you must unfreeze that iceberg, right? So you must unfreeze that iceberg. Unfreeze that iceberg. Then he said that now you apply the change into that, right? And then freeze it so it will fix and move, right? So it's in very layman's term, I mean, very high level. Any change project, any change management project which we are executing, actually we can explain through this Levin's iceberg theory, right? So this is how I unfreeze, and this is how we change, and this is the frozen phase where now the change is set, now move, right? Now, little later on, taking this Levin's iceberg theory little forward, now Cotter proposes, they call it 8-step theory for change, right? It is, the base is actually the iceberg theory, Levin's theory, right? Levin's theory, the base is that. But what Cotter does is, Cotter just double clicks on that and say, okay, what do you mean by unfreeze, right? What do you mean by change, and what do you mean by freeze, right? So that is what the Cotter's 8-step theory explains. Now, the first 3 steps of this theory, that is the creating urgency and form a powerful coalition and create a vision for change, right? Now, these 3, he says, this is what we call unfreezing, right? Of that part. And then he says, communicate the vision, empower action, and create quick wins. That's the change process which he's talking about. And then he says, build on the change and make it stick. That's the freeze phase, right? So now Levin's theory, iceberg theory, is at very high level, which explains the entire change process. But Cotter actually he breaks it into another multiple stages, and he explains it in 8 stages, and try to explain this is the change process, right? If you wanted to do something, this is exactly how you do, right? Now this particular lecture is not the lecture that that we explain how you do the change, but as an initial lecture, that's why I'm just explaining now. These are the things, something that you need to keep in mind. And when it comes to more modern eras, especially now we are talking about McKinsey's 5S framework of a change management, right? Which is again built on I would say the base is actually Levin's theory, iceberg theory, right? And also some of the foundations are from Kotter's 7 steps, right? But here it's kind of more modernized version of that change, how we execute change. So this is again, I would say like kind of a modern framework where currently now these days the change experts actually use. Okay, so I'm not going to detail discuss about all these 3 theories. I'm just giving you certain indications and I'm just giving you an introduction of that. I expect you all to go and explore, do some studies to and get some understanding, because especially the McKinsey's 7S framework, you can actually apply even in your current day-to-day change management activities in your organizations, right? So study and get use of that. Excuse me, I'll just take some water. Yeah, a lot to go. We'll try to finish, or else we'll do it next week. Right, then my other colleague actually will talk you through how to change. But my objective today is to make you understand what to change, right? How do we analyze and look through what things that we must change, right? Now, before we get into what to change, right? Now, I must tell you now, any change management initiative is actually emerging, it emerges from your strategy building of your organization, right? Have you completed your strategy sessions, or have you gone through that?
Strategies was discussed.
Right. So I'll just quickly let's quickly looking at how do we build our strategies, basically, right? It's very simple, no, right? So what is that? We say my current state, and my future state, right? So what is it basically? Where we are now, right? And like it's, what is this? It says, where do you want to be? Sorry. This is the start of the strategy, right? And the question is, when? Right? Now, this is very simply how you build a strategy, right? Now, where you are now, right? For an example, let's put some context to there. Okay, we'll put the context is now manual procurement, right? Now I want to have e-procurement, right? So that is where I want to be in 3 years, right? Time is important, right? So this is a strategy, right? Because why? Again, because due to various other factors, various drivers that we have been talking about. Now, this is one of the strategies that I wanted to implement, right? Manual procurement to e-procurement in 3 years. Now, what's the next step in my strategy building, right? I hope that you can remember all this, right? So you do your internal analysis. Right? How do you do internal analysis on strategy? There are tools, many tools. One prominent tool is SWOT. Right? You have your internal analysis. So you do a SWOT analysis to understand what? To understand your strengths, weaknesses, and all that, right? And then you do your external analysis. It is not writing. Right? So what are the tools that we use to analyze externally? We just learned, right? Fester, Porter's 5 forces, right? We use these kind of tools to analyze, right? So let's look at only the SWOT for the moment, because I'm not going to teach you a strategy session. So but just let's try to understand that, right? How do we convert my SWOT into into a strategy, right? So you take when you take strategies, so you take OS, opportunities and strengths, right? This is one strategy, opportunities and strengths. Now in this place, what you do is you try to create how your organization will be will use your strengths to take advantage of your opportunities, right? How to take your strengths for the advantage of your advantage of opportunities, right? Opportunities. Then we have the other part. What? We have opportunities and weaknesses. So opportunity and weakness strategy, right? Now, what we do here? Here, what we do is we analyze and see how your organization will use your weaknesses by taking advantages of your opportunities, right? So how to take how will you use your weaknesses to the advantage of your opportunities, right? And then the other quadrant, we have threats and strengths strategy. Now, what is threats and strengths strategy? Is like how your organization will use your strength to avoid your threats, right? How do your organization will use your strengths to avoid your threats, right? Then lastly, we have threats and weaknesses. This keyboard is jumping. Threats and weakness strategy, right? In here, what we say is how your organizations will minimize weaknesses to avoid threats, right? Minimize weaknesses to avoid threat. Stop. Right. Okay. Now, now with this, where do we go? With this, where do we go? Right. So now strategy is there. Now, one of these, including now this is the internal analysis. No. So similarly, we do the external analysis, also get some inputs here. And then these are the ones that it is becoming are change management objectives in my organization, right? How to convert my this thing onto this in order to reach what? In order to reach from manual procurement system to an e-procurement system in 3 years, right? Manual procurement system to e-procurement system in 3 years. That's my requirement. No, ඒකනේ මට ඕන කරන්නේ. Right? That's where I wanted to be. That's my main objective, right? So I'm creating a objective for my organization in order to avoid certain things because of certain internal and external factors, and I analyze my internal strengths as well as the external threats, external factors. From that, I come up with certain strategies, right? Now, those strategies we initiate as what? Change projects. Now, for an example, let's look at now, we say, okay, a manual to e-procurement system, right? Okay, one of my weaknesses are I have very low literate IT in technology, very low literate team, staff. That's one of my weakness, right? But one of my strengths are I have a very skilled and educated staff who's willing to change and catch a lot of things, right? So then what's my strategy? One strategy would be, in order for me to convert this one from manual to this place, to ensure that I educate them and bring them up to that skill capabilities, right? Because I am using their skills, their capability, and I'm trying to avoid one of my weaknesses with their strengths. You understand where I'm coming, right? I mean, sorry if you don't understand also, because this is not a strategy building session, but what I wanted to emphasize here is everything starts from your strategy, right? There's nothing comes without a strategy. Even a small project, even an incremental change management initiative, even a small initiative actually triggers from your strategy, very high level strategy where you wanted to be, right? So that's what I wanted to emphasize, right? So now we know now there's an organizational vision, right? Due to whatever the influences, whatever the drivers, whatever the factors that we just discussed, there's a need that we need to move from manual procurement system to e-procurement system, right? In 3 years, right? And I have analyzed that, and I have certain strategies. I have built up certain strategies. Now, executing those strategies are actually becoming our change projects. Are you clear? I don't know whether I can share this one with you. Make ඇඳපු එක ඔයගොල්ලෝ ලියාගත්තද මම? I don't know how to save this. Anyway, no problem. I hope you written down, right? Just to understand, okay? I don't know. I actually don't know how to save this. This is Zoom. First time I'm using Zoom whiteboard. Usually I use my own whiteboard, which I can save. But anyway, you can look at the recording anyway. Right. Now let's go back. Right. So the point that I wanted to emphasize is everything starts from your strategy. Hari, everything starts from your strategy. Without strategy, nothing works. Right. So when we try to analyze what needs to be changed, that is where I started. It starts from your strategy, right? So any change that you don't, any change that you do, right, without aligning to your organization strategy and vision will miserably fail, and it will not add any value to your organization, right? That's, I think you understand what the point that I'm trying to make, right? So you cannot just do whatever the change that you want. It doesn't add any value to your organization or anyone else. right? And there's a high chance that it can miserably fail, right? So whatever the change initiatives, whatever the projects, change initiatives that we intake, it has to be aligned with your strategy and the vision of the organization, right? That's number one, all right? Right. Now, then how do we analyze what to be changed, right? How do we analyze what to be changed? Now, there are many tools in that. There's one prominent tool that we use. That's what I think OUSL have adopted, which is what we call a systems approach in organizational analysis, right? A systems approach of the organization analysis, right? Are you all tired, or you want a break, or can I continue?
Continue, so only
Continue.
minutes. No?
Yeah, no problem, right? Right. Okay. So, 1 second. Luckily, you said actually are good. At least you all are talking, keeping the videos on. Then at least I feel that I'm talking to someone. Otherwise, budget එක නිකන් කියවන වගේ තමයි screen එකක් තියන. Right, a systems approach, right? So we are going to learn about what is the systems approach of analyzing an organization. It's very simple. Make a terminology where you don't have to worry about it. It's very simple, right? What it simply means is, look at your organization. When you are analyzing an organization, look at it as a system holistically. Don't look at as only one process, one department, one structure, not like that. Look at it as a holistic picture, as a system where one thing impacts the other. That is systems approach in simple terms. Okay. Now let's look at in a little more detail. Now this is actually a structure which I could find from the internet, which I thought much more informative. That's why I took this. Right. This is from the internet, right? I took this. So this is the systems approach framework, right? So what is systems approach? As I told you, systems approach is that I'm looking at an organization when it comes to a change, right? I'm looking at an organization as a whole system which is interconnected. So theoretically, they have broken in this one into several parts. Now you can see system. I mentioned system in that yellow color area, right? Now that is your organization. That yellow color area is your organization. That's your system. That's what we call systems approach, right? And then there are key areas that we predominantly discuss about in this approach. One is the inputs into the system, right? So it could be raw materials, it could be human resources, it could be capital, it could be technology, it could be information, whatever the things that we use as an input, right, into that system, right? That the place that you are planning to change, right? And then you have the transformation process, right? So those could be your employees' work, activity, management activity, technology, operation methods, processes, name it, whatever it was, right? So that is how you transform your inputs into action. And then you have your outputs, right? You have your products or service, your results, your information, whatever, right? That is your output, right? And then from your output, we have certain feedback loops. We call it feedback loops, right? Feedback loops. That means we feed certain information back as an input, right? So we can utilize that in my next transformation process, right? That's a feedback loop. We'll talk this one in little detail. And then on top of that, what you have is you have your external environment, your environment. So that also have a impact to your system, which is your organization. Clear? Is there any question here before I start explaining? I don't think I'll explain and then I'll ask the question. Okay. Right. Now, this is a little bit of an explanation on to that. Now, what are your inputs? Right? It could be resources in the system, funds, human skills, policies, materials, whatever it goes into your system, that which you are going to initiate a change activity, right? So those are the inputs, right? Throughput, the process is your activities that transform your inputs into actionable outputs, right? Workflows, decision making, communication, whatever, blah blah. Outputs, what are you going to expect? And then obviously the feedback loops. Now in this feedback loop, I actually didn't gave a slide particularly. There are two types of feedback, right? There are two types of feedback. So 1 second. Yeah. Right. There are, we call it two types of feedback. Okay. One is we call reinforcing feedback. Reinforcing. එහෙම නැත්නම් අපි කියනවා මේකට positive. What is this? Right? Positive feedback, right? Feedback loop, right? Now it's like this. Now, for an example, now assume, now when you look at everything as a system, right? When you analyze, now assume that the same thing that we wanted to implement, that is we wanted to move from a manual procurement system to e-procurement system, right? Now in that, one of the key things that we actually have is, right, it's like this. No, let me draw this like this. Okay. How to put this? Okay, let me put like this. Better public trust. Now this better public trust. If I have a better public trust, then obviously it is easy for me to get funding, right? More funding for the project, for the procurement project, right? And then if I get more funding, right, I can implement that change and then I can give a faster delivery for the customer. Right? So if I giving faster delivery for the customer means, right, I actually make an efficient procurement system. Right? Make a efficient procurement system. See, now this is what we call a feedback loop. Now, when you analyze a change, a requirement, a change study, right? Now, in our case, this example what we have taken was like we wanted to move from manual procurement to public procurement. So when we analyze it as a holistic systems approach, right? Input outputs, I'm not going to talk about right now because I'm going to give as an exercise for you, so you will learn that, right? But the feedback loops there are two types of feedback loop. One is reinforcing. Reinforcing means that you keep, I mean, that feedback loop is so positive. I mean, it can increase something or it can decrease something, right? By doing certain things, certain things can be increased or it can go other way. It can decrease. Now, see the loop here. Now, better public trust. Now, let's look at the more efficient procurement system. Start from here, right? Now, more efficient procurement system, right? This is what I want. More efficient procurement system. That means if I have a more efficient procurement system, I will have a better public trust. When I have a better public trust, I can get more funds from the government, right? So if I have more funds for the government, I can still give them with that the system, I can provide them a faster delivery. When I provide faster delivery, the system makes more efficient. Then better public trust, better funding. Like it goes as a loop, it keeps on increasing. This is an example, right? So this is what we call a reinforcing a feedback loop, right? So it can go the other way also, right? The negative side also. Either it will drive into the positive side, drastical growth, or it will actually drive into a negative side, drastical drop, right? Either thing can happen. Then the next type is actually what we call the second feedback loop is we call sorry. Balancing feedback loop, or we call negative. So this actually neither increase or decrease, but actually it helps us to balance. Now, certain outcomes will be balanced feedback loops. Now, for an example, if you look at say there are project delays. Now, when we have more project delays, you will have more audit and checks, right? Audits. Now, if you have more audits, then what will happen? Then when you have audits, things will move faster, and then it will delays reduced, right? Right. Now, when it delays reduced, the system is stabilized. Right. Now, this is another type of feedback loop. Now, here what happens? Okay, you have a project, you have project delays. Because of your project delays, your audit department start auditing things, right? Faster, why it is happening, why it is not happening, etc., etc. Because of that, it will reduce delays, and it will increase the stability of your system, right? And then the project delays will get minimized, stable, right? So when we achieve those kind of stability, those loops that we call, those feedbacks that what we call are balancing or negative feedback loops, right? So I have not given a slide into you in this, but if you can just draw this and keep it. So these are two types of feedback loops. You don't have to get worry about too much about it, but I'm just, for your knowledge, I'm just explaining, right? Right. See, feedback loops: audits, performances, reports, customer complaints, supply evaluations, KPIs, dashboards, right? Now, these loops help the organization to adjust and correct deviations and improve over time, right? So identification of feedback loops also one of the part of this system's thinking. I'll come to this later, and we'll finish it off. Now, now what they say is within this transformation process, within the transformation process, you have sub systems, right? One is people, right? So when it comes to people, we are talking about their skills, attitudes, leaderships, cultures, behaviors, whether it's adequate for this particular change, whether we need to improve their skills, how is their attitudes, etc., etc. We'll talk how we are going to analyze those separate later, right? And then another system is actually tasks. We are talking about processes, workflows, performances, expectations, and then technology, right? Tools, platforms, those kind of stuff. And then the structure means your organization structure. How do you structure the authority levels and the governance mechanisms, etc. And the external environment, regulations, markets, stakeholders, competition, political forces, all that, right? So now these are the subsystems within this transformation process. That's what they call. So when you are analyzing, we must analyze. When you analyze a change, when you analyze a change, what to be changed, you wanted to change from a manual procurement system to a e-procurement system, you need to analyze all these elements. What are my inputs for this particular change? What are my transformation methods or the sub systems within that? And what I'm going to achieve, outputs, and how I'm going to improve? What are the feedback loops, right? Whether it's balancing or whether it's reinforcing, what are the feedback loops that I'm going to get? And what areas that it actually impacts, right? So I'm going to implement an e-procurement system. So I'm not going to look at a procurement system only within my procurement department, right? Because it has an implication on my various other departments as well, right? So my procurement, if I'm going to implement my procurement system, then there's a legal implication, there's a policy implication where the government has to build in, right? Then we need to have technological implications, right? Technology department needs to get involved, finance has to get involved, right? So there are many things which actually impacts and connects each and every one together, right? So that is what we call that when we analyze a change, what to be changed in order for me to achieve from one thing to one place, right? What are the things that I need to change? That analysis is that what we call that we use a method called this systems approach. So instead of looking at, okay, I'm going to implement a procurement system, e-procurement system, I'm looking at as an overall organization systems perspective and see, based on this change, what are the touch points, where it is going to impact, what are the feedbacks that I'm going to bring in, what would be the inputs for this, what would be the outputs for this, right? So I don't think that you will understand 100% what this concept unless that you actually do an exercise, okay? Unless that you actually do an exercise. So I think, see, because of the interest of time, what we will do is actually we will stop here, but I think I have shared it with you, an exercise. Have you received that? I have shared it with you, an exercise. Did they send that to you?
It's by WhatsApp, right?
I don't, maybe, no, I don't know. Maybe yes.
We had received it by 12:58.
Right.
think
Okay. I think if you have not received it, let me know.
Is it system mapping exercise, sir?
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, it's there in WhatsApp.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's actually a context. It's a kind of a case study that I have written, that where the case is that reforming the procurement process at the Ministry of Infrastructure Development. That's the case, right? And the context is given, right? Case context is given, right? Now, the key details are also given as a systems approach, right? Inputs, what are the inputs, right? What are the what are the core processes, right? Api madde balapuwa, right? And what is going to be the expected outputs, right? What could be the external influences to that? So these are some of the key details of that particular case, the change that we are going to make, right? Now, what I want you to do is, like, I want you to do and understand what are the inputs, right? And what are the processes, right? And process challenges. What could be the input challenges that you need to change? What are the process challenges that you need to adopt? What are the output challenges that you will look into, right? What are the external influences that you need to keep an eye on in terms of this particular change, right? And then I have given certain guided questions just to ask your provoke your thoughts, right? Where do delay occurs, which inputs are inadequate. We need to understand this more critically and try to analyze this particular case, assuming this is your own organization, right? I just given this as a Ministry of Infrastructure Development. Just forget about that. Put this case on your organization and try to look into this as a holistic picture of this systems approach, and try to come up with that. And we will next class, next session is I think my session will be on December, if I'm not mistaken. So you have time till December 5th or something like that. That's Saturday, first Saturday of December 6th, I guess. You have time. So try to study a little bit how you analyze and all that, and try to come up with an answer. So we'll start next session by discussing this. So you will understand straight off how you do a system analysis using the systems approach, right? So you first of all, you try for yourself, and you come and present what you analyze, right? Each and every one, and then we'll discuss, and then we'll develop that, and we'll learn how you do an analysis of systems approach. Then you will be fixed. Now I'm giving you here in this screen a most possible an assignment question, or it could be a exam question. I mean, last time I have given, nobody has even looked at it. You can easily get 20 marks with this if you it's very simple. It's not difficult. So first of all, you try. You have time till 5th, the 6th of December. You try till that. You come up with this thing, and you ensure that you present that to this team. And then we will go through how you do different things. And then you will understand this thing. There's no right or wrong answer to this, okay? Keep that in mind. There's no right or wrong answer. There's no right or wrong method. It's just the way that how you understand and analyze. Okay, there's no common answer for this, right? It's how you analyze, right? Anything to add? Any questions? Anything to add? Did I confuse you all?
Sir, now we have even we are working for private firm, we have to apply this question to private firms as well, right? We know we don't want to go behind public sectors, right?
No. Just take the context that what I have given, and use those information as if that it is in your organization. If it is in your organization, what are the challenges? What are the things that you need to look into when it comes to changing this procurement, implementing a e-procurement system in your organization? That's all. The case is just for general, but look at the context. You put that context into your business firm and analyze. No problem. As long as that you analyze, I guarantee you, by 5th you will learn 20 marks. Huh? You can go and write the same thing in the assignment and the paper. I don't have a problem with that. Okay. So that's what I said. All of you are going to be passed. Don't worry. You understand? So don't worry about the system. Just read a little more, right? Try to understand how you analyze, etc. And then try to do that. Try to do that. Doesn't matter whether you fail. Doesn't matter. And come and present. Everyone come and present. And then we'll figure out. We'll learn from there. Any questions, Rani? We can wrap up, right?
Okay.
Thank you very much for
Okay.
your participation. Thank you very much for your engagement. All the others also, I actually expect that you all to participate, because it's not that I talk. Me talking, you will not going to learn.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you,
Thank you,
sir.
sir.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.